Good afternoon. Welcome to the how-to series on job search letters basics. So today we're going to show you how to create a professional job search letter. We're going to use the cover letter as our example. Although you may have the cover letter, the follow-up letter, thank you letter, recruitment letter. There's all types of letters in terms of your job search that may be applicable using this procedure that we're about to show you. So the first thing we're going to do is type in our letterhead. And you always want to have a letterhead. Now notice how when I start to type in my name and address, it kind of skips down, double space almost. So the first thing you're going to do is, I'm just going to go ahead and finish the letterhead off and then show you how to correct that. Your preference may be your phone number next or your email, whichever is convenient for you. And if you get this type of spacing, you can go ahead and highlight everything. Right click, click on paragraph, and notice it's 10 points and multiple line spacing. So we're going to click in front of that 0, get rid of that 1. We're going to make that single, and then we're going to set this as our default. So going forward, it'll remain that format. And you can do this for this document only or all documents. Click OK. And let's go back and change it so that we know it's working, because there we go. We set the default, and it was a two-step process to change it on this document as well as for future documents. So we've done that. So the next step is to hit your enter key twice, and you'll notice how the email address is highlighted. And that just lets it know that there's a link behind it. You could click on it. If you had Outlook or anything set up already, you could immediately send the email right from the Word document. So in between your letterhead and today's date, you're going to put 4 blank lines. So let's go ahead and type in today's date. And you can do the date in one of 2 ways. Here we have February. You typed in a few of the letters. You click on the enter key, and it will enter the rest of the word February. Hit the space key, and it will give us to the current date. Now, if you wanted to put in the day of the week, you could, but highly not recommended. Okay? After you type in the date, the next step is going to be hit enter twice and then enter the information for your recipient. So we're going to go ahead and send this to Mr. Rick Bird. He's located at 1501 South New Road. It said he's in Unit 2, and that would be Pleasantville, New Jersey, 08232. Now, just a quick note, the only thing that you should abbreviate on any of your business letters for your job search would be the state. Never the city, never any other abbreviation unless it's an acronym for some certification that you have, that kind of thing. You always want to assume that the person that's reading your cover letter or thank you letter doesn't know anything about you, and you want to make sure that they have a clear picture. And so our next step is, if we were sending this via email or fax, you can go up to the name, put in a couple of spaces, and type in via fax. And then you can go ahead and put the number in that you're sending it. This alerts you and the sender that you're sending it over fax, and it documents that you sent it via fax. If it were email, you could do via email, and then you would put that person's email address in there as well. There we have it. Now, we should have put 4 lines in between the date and the recipient information. So next would be our salutation. You're going to use 2 blank lines, and then you're going to say, Dear Mr. Bird. Now, you could go in and do Dear Mr. Rick Bird. Either one is okay. I like to use the full name. That way, if there's 2 people in the company, you basically, it could be a Mr. Bird Sr. and a Mr. Bird Jr., and you don't want it to go to the wrong party for the company. And then make sure that you put your semicolon or your colon next to the end of the name, and then you're going to hit enter twice again. And your next step is to create the body of your letter. Now, if you're doing a cover letter, you should make sure that you include, it basically should be an introduction, because it's the first time they're hearing from you. Your resume is enclosed. Your resume is typically going to be 1 page only, so it's going to have most important information on there that applies to the job specifically that you're applying for. And the same needs to be for your cover letter. But here you can be a little more detailed in some of the things that you want to talk about in terms of yourself. This is where you sell yourself so that they know, who you are, what you can do immediately before they even look at the resume. Your cover letter is your first introduction, and so therefore the resume will be the backup to what you're saying you can do and when you have done it and for whom you've done it for. So let's go and say, I am contacting your office in reference to a management position that was advertised in the Atlantic City Press under the classified section. Enclosed is my confidential resume that details my strong experience in management at let's say it was the Holiday Inn, for which I traveled throughout the East Coast, managing several locations. Okay. I bring a great deal of experience specific to the needs you have indicated in your job description. Now, notice I've got a little green squiggly line, so I'm going to get right in front of that and right click, and it suggests that I have a question mark at the end. Okay, and I'm going to ignore that because it's not a question. Okay, so I bring a great deal of experience specific to the needs you have indicated in your job description. New paragraph. Furthermore, my recent research of your company indicates that your specific business relationships are with several of the hotels for which I have managed. Not only will I bring specific knowledge of that industry, but I still maintain a great rapport with the existing upper management at all of the locations. So here you're just pretty much saying that you're going to be an asset not only with my company or their company, but you're bringing some assets from the other company. Let's see, I think rapport is O-U-R. So let's get the right spelling for rapport. And usually you just right click and you get what you're looking for. And I think that's an A. Oops. Rapport. That's what the problem is. At that point, if you still couldn't figure it out, get yourself a rapport. Yeah, there we go. You just get your little tablet out or your phone and ask. I forget who it is with the Apple phone. It is Iris or Cyrus or whoever the heck it is. Iris, and whoever it is with your those other phones, you just pretty much ask them how to spell a word and they tell you. Cyrus, I think it is. Anyway, so here we have the content of our letter. Now, some of this, you really can't put into a resume because it's more like a paragraph of introduction about yourself. Now, whatever you put in this resume, the resume that you're about to create, must match what you put into your cover letter. So you don't want to talk about all your experience working for the hotel industry, and then your resume actually says you worked in the casino side of the business, maybe not so much the hotel end of it. So always make sure that your job search letters match specifically your resume that you're attaching to the cover letter and the cover letter attaching to the resume, because you're going to have many versions of everything. So just make sure you don't make that mistake. So there we've got it. Any cover letter, thank you letter, follow-up letter should have a minimum of 2 paragraphs where you're totally targeting the specific function of that letter. So our next paragraph is going to be thanking them. So I am requesting to meet with you at your earliest convenience to discuss in further the potential I may bring to your company, as well as get to provide a one-on-one session with you and your interviewing staff. Okay, let's look at that again. So I'm requesting to meet with you at your earliest convenience to discuss in further the potential I may bring to your company, as well as get to provide a one-on-one session with you and your interviewing staff. I may be reached at the number or email address above. I look forward to hearing from you in the very near future. So I'm telling them, please call me right away. Now, you can do your signature, your closing can be sincerely thanking you in advance. I always like to say thanking you in advance. Kind of sounds like you have to get back to me because I already thanked you for it. Okay. Then you're going to come down between here, your last line, it should be 2 spaces, and then your closing, and then 4 more spaces. And those 4 more spaces, you're going to type your name, Trina Bird. Okay? And you're leaving the 4 spaces there so that you, I'm sorry, 4 lines, so that you can have enough space to write your name above your printed name. And of course, we're sending a resume, so you can do enclosures, confidential. And this pretty much just says the resume is confidential. You don't want them sharing it with anybody. You might also say provide a brief portfolio if it applies. Okay? And if you're sending this via email and you would like to CC someone, you can also do a carbon copy and put that person's name. So let's say we want a Trina Bird. She is the co-owner of the company. You would like her to get a copy of everything as well. And again, you would definitely go down 3 lines, 3 to 4 lines, or actually 2. But because I put that extra line in there, I wanted to put an extra so it looks a little more uniform. And there's the content. So now we're going to go back and put the bells and whistles on. We're checking for grammar, punctuation. We don't see any squiggly green lines or squiggly red lines. So we know everything is spelled correctly. Everything is grammatically correct. And there are no actual punctuation errors. So this looks kind of normal. Actually, we do have something. There's a green squiggly line here. So let's look at that and see what it says. No, I'm clicking in front of it, and there's no suggestion. So it looks like we've got an extra, I don't know what that's from. Let's go ahead and write out South New Road without that abbreviation. See if we get rid of it. And we do. So it's just recommending with the grammar. Grammar is green. So it's recommending that you not abbreviate in your cover letter. Just as I suggested, only do the state. And I had abbreviated the street address. So fix that. So then we're going to go in and make it a little fancy. Not too flamboyant, but just a little fancy. So we want to definitely highlight our name and make that bold. You always want your name to be a little bit bigger than the text beneath it. So we'll go ahead and make that like a 14 so the name stands out. Everybody does a block style to the left. So you might want to do a block style to the right with your name, or you may want to center it. Centered is the standard pretty much, although a lot of folks will do left justified and some will do right justified. Now we're also going to highlight. Now this looks a little ragged, so I'm going to go ahead and put a comma there and bring that up to the next line so it looks a little more uniform. Put an extra space in there. You always want to highlight the person's name or bold for whom you're sending it to. And I don't know if I like the fact that this is up there, so I'm going to just highlight it. Because after I finish typing, it doesn't look all that great. So I'm going to just put it underneath the address. I'm going to get rid of that blank line, and then I'm going to put my 2 extra lines in there. Here we have it. Now you should also highlight the person's name, or bold the person's name in the salutation. Okay, there we have that. And we're just going to reread this and make sure that it actually makes good sense. Bold my name as the person writing the letter. And then you're going to want to bold who you send it out to. Now, notice that the margins are really pretty decent here. If I had a little more text, that would probably run over into, and we're close. We only got like a couple more lines. If I had something that was going to run over, and let's go ahead and pretend like we've got another paragraph so I can demo that. So I'm going to go ahead and add another paragraph. Notice that it goes over 2 pages. So you don't want that. No one's going to read a 2 pages of cover letter. All right. So what you do is you go up to page layout, click on margins, and change your margins to narrow. Brings it right back down to 1 page. Everything still looks good. However, it may be just a little bit too close to the edge. It's about a 1/2 inch on each side, opposed to the normal view, which is about 1 inch. So what I'm going to do is just bring this in, my margin, click on it, and just drag it over just a little bit. Only because I've got a lot of room down here that I can utilize. So it's not going to be 2 pages, but I can actually get, oh, come on. I can actually still keep it on 1 page, and I've got that extra paragraph, and it still looks really good. All right. I'm going to bring my top margin down just a little bit. So now we've got it. It looks pretty good, and we're good to go. This is your how-to series. Topic is job search letter basics, and you definitely want to follow this format when it comes to putting in the date, your letterhead, addressing your recipient fully with the name and address if you're going to send it via email. And quick tip, you could go put an extra line in there and highlight that as well, and go ahead and bold it up so that the recipient can identify as well. Because, you know, not all companies check their email. They have people that do that. And so if you put it in the actual cover letter that you sent it via email, when that person gets the printed copy, they will know it came via email. So they may want to contact you immediately. And if they do, your email is right there. They may not feel comfortable calling you, but they just may want to drop your email and request some additional information. Your email's up at the top. They realize that you recognize their email, and so the correspondence will go through without a hitch. And I would say that looks pretty good as a nice cover letter. Definitely cover letter. So all job search letters, whether it be cover, thank you, follow-up, recruitment, whatever the case may be for that particular letter, always make sure it has today's date, who you're sending it to with their full name and address. If you're going to be sending it via email or the fax machine, make sure you identify that in the letter. And then your salutation should always have a dear and a colon at the end of the last letter of the name. Then the body of your letter, always making sure your spacing is really good. So you got 4 lines here, 2 lines. It's either 4 or 2. It's always 4 lines between the date as well as, we'll just go ahead and highlight this so you can see it. It's always going to be 4 lines in here between your date and who you're sending it to. You're always going to make sure that your recipient area is totally complete. So in the event that for some reason you send it to the wrong location, they can go ahead and forward it to the right location. If you're doing it through email or fax, make sure you make notation of that as well. Always make sure your salutation is dear, and it's definitely got Mr. or Mrs. on there, and your colon at the end. Body of your letter should really always be nice and equal on both sides, so you don't have anything kind of hanging out there by itself. And then you've got your closing, which is thanking you in advance, sincerely, whatever you prefer to use. Make sure it's got a comma at the end, and then of course you leave space in there for your 4 lines, because this is where you're going to sign your name. Now, what if you're sending an email? How do you put the digital in there? Well, one of the things that I've done is I have made a picture of my signature. And some people will go ahead and just use a font, italic font. I like my signature to be in there. And notice when I put it in there, it actually put it right where it shouldn't be. So the first thing you want to do is wrap text it, right click, wrap text it, and click on square. And then you just bring it down right where it should be. Make sure it doesn't move any text over that you don't want. And then you have it. So there's your name. Now you got to be real careful with this because, you know, someone can get your signature and go to town with it. And you don't want that. So be real careful of signing your name and leaving it where other people can have access to it. And then you've got your enclosures. So your enclosures are going to be where you mention your confidential resume and anything else that may be important that you're sending along with this email or fax, or even if you're mailing it out through snail mail. You're going to definitely want to make sure you let them know that enclosures were included. And then if you're going to be CCing it to anyone who in that company, maybe the HR director and the immediate supervisor, especially if you're doing a follow-up letter, you know, and you met with 2 or 3 people in the interview and you're doing a follow-up letter or thank you letter, make sure you CC it to everybody involved. And it'll give you an opportunity for them to hear from you again, because follow-up letters and thank you letters are so, so important. The thank you letter is written to thank a company for responding to receiving your resume or a networking connection that you've made through social media or at an event, etc. It is also a way to express your appreciation of that person's time and also to reiterate your interest in that position. And lastly, it shows good manners, which will indicate to the potential employer how you will handle their task with good manners. Now, the follow-up letter is written after you've actually completed an interview with the potential employer. It is primarily used to thank the interviewer for their time, but it can also be used as a follow-up to your status of your potential employment. This is a good way to kind of nag them professionally so that you pretty much force the interviewer to respond to the letter that you received and update you on the position available. So it's a good little trick. A lot of people have gotten away from doing these extra letters, but I tell you, they make a difference. And you definitely want to put them into your profile so that once you start your job search, you've got all of that good stuff there. So there we have it. The how-to series on personal job search letter basics. I'm your presenter, Trina Bird, and see you next time.